Hi all. So today we're going to see how ISTIO is going to work. So in previous video we have saw the theoretical aspect as well as some snippet of the code, how exactly we should write the YAML file to achieve ISTIO, that is so enabling the proxy server, that is envoy to your microservices, followed by the dependencies and the observatory, everything, right? So we're going to see in practical how exactly it is going to work. Fine. So before we getting started, so we need to have a system. So since I won't be performing anything over the local system, I'll be using cloud application, that is AWS EC2 instance. We'll try to create and configure prerequisites. What are the things we going to require? We'll see step by step everything. Okay, create a new instance. So name your instance as you require. I will be choosing the Ubuntu image, and the instance type. So while you are working with Kubernetes cluster, at least you require 4 GB of RAM. So go with based on your requirement. So minimum requirement is 4 GB. So I'll be choosing T3 MyITM, and followed by, if you have key existing, go with that, or if you do not, just create a new one. And here I will be using the existing security group. I don't want multiple groups to be created whenever we try to. So I have already created the security groups. That's more than enough. And in storage, so you might require to scale up, or you might require your storage to be expanded once after installing the project or pulling the project from the Docker, right? So for in prior thing, I will be choosing, that is I'll be going with more storage itself in the base itself. Fine. So I've just chosen 15 GB of. Okay, so it's all set. Media, everything is fine. Okay. So if you are creating the new security group, on that case, just create a new security group, followed by, you will see two checkboxes. One is for allowing your HTTP and HTTPS, that is for port 80 as well as 443. Just allow them. Okay, so we'll try to connect to our EC2 instance. Okay, so once we make it up to date, since I am using Ubuntu, I'll be using the evidence packaging tool to update my system at the server. So we will update. So once after updating the system, so before we go on with Kubernetes, we require Docker to be installed priorly, right? So for that purpose, we go and install the Docker on our EC2 instance, and just type Docker on Ubuntu and read the documentation of Docker. There you will see the procedure of install. Okay. Okay. So they have some packaging tools that if you are using CLI things, these are the commands to install the Docker on your system. So right now I'll be going with the data repository. I don't want any individual commands to be forwarded. So I just go with this one. I copy it and let me paste it inside. Run. Okay. So the repo tool, and now let's pass the command to install the Docker. Run. So we will be verifying once after installation got completed whether the Docker will return us the hello world or not. If it doesn't return the hello world, so there might be some issue while installing the packages. So if we got successfully got installed, okay. So we see that. See, so it just pull the image from the Docker app and it's returning that is hello world from Docker. So now the Docker is successfully installed. Now we have container on our EC2 instance, that is we make use of Docker to utilize the containerization. So we have a container, so we need something to be managed for auto scaling, for security, for load balancer, policy making, everything. So for that purpose, we required Kubernetes clusters, right? So no, it's not required. So to use Kubernetes, we have different many platforms. So it's not only limited to things. So actually, let me see that if I can able to show you people. See here. So you need Kubernetes cluster to proceed. If you do not have cluster, you can use kind or any other supported platforms. We go on Kubernetes supported platform. To achieve Kubernetes, we have many platforms like Alibaba Cloud. When it comes to Amazon, they have their own built-in, that is Elastic Kubernetes cluster. In Azure also they have their one and Docker desktop, everything. See here. So among all these things, we'll be using Minikube. So here we have just type Minikube. Navigate to that. Go down and we have installation procedure over here. I'll be choosing the operating system as Linux and the package I'll be using is Debian. Fine. Once it's done, let's start. Okay, so what they are suggesting is so they cannot able to start the minikube since we are not associated our minikube with Docker to use container concept. So what they are suggestions, add your user to Docker group. So how do we add? They have already given the command. Just copy this command and run it. So it's done, right? Minikube start. So we have just install the Minikube platform. So we need something to control all the clusters, everything, right? To create, to manage. We require some agent to interact, right? The agent we will be using here is kubectl. So we're going to install once after the Minikube got started. And again, I need to start the Minikube after installing the agent for interaction. Fine. Or else you're going to encounter the error. So when I will going to show what exactly the error you will going to get. So now we have Docker as well as Kubernetes platform. So that is we use Docker for containerization and we have used Kubernetes for managing all your containers, pods, securities, auto scaling, policy management, everything, right? So we have two tools. And how do we going to interact with my Kubernetes? So we'll see. So what's its name? There is no agent called kubectl. So if I want that agent to be installed, definitely I required agent to be installed or the API to interact with my Kubernetes cluster. So we're going to install using the root access, that is sudo snap install kubectl, that is Kubernetes cluster hyphen hyphen classic. So that is the command it's been provided from the. Okay, so now we have just installed the agent to interact with the cluster. Fine, we're going to start minikube right now. So it will going to associate minikube, that is your Kubernetes cluster, with the agent called kubectl. So we'll try to get whether I can able to access the Kubernetes cluster or not. kubectl. So here I have just passed the command, that is kubectl is an agent, and asking me to get the pod of all the clusters available or which is running up and running, right? So these are the pods which are running in the cluster of Kubernetes. Fine, so altogether we will be getting some service for CDN. So if we have an external IP, we can able to access outside the cluster. So if we do not have any external IP, we cannot able to access any resources outside the cluster. So if we want to access anything outside the cluster, that is Kubernetes cluster, we must have external IP. We'll go into see what can be achieved out. Fine. So now what we have done, we just installed Docker and we just installed Minikube, that is Kubernetes platform. To interact with Kubernetes, we required an agent, that is kubectl we have installed, and we can successfully access the pods inside the cluster, that is core pods, core DNS pods, etc, controller, proxy, scheduler, storage provisioner, everything, right? So we'll go and see what they have given. So while installing things, fine. So now what we have pre-requirements, that is everything is done and up to date, right? That is Kubernetes cluster is available in my instance. So once after that, I will be installing the ISTIO. So why do we require ISTIO? To achieve service mesh concept. So without exposing your microservice directly to the end user, we'll be using service mesh concept, that is ISTIO. So just we have configured the path where it should be downloaded and all, and we'll try to install the ISTIO now. So now it is getting installed here. Now ISTIO system, everything is getting installed. Fine, now the complete ISTIO, that is the proxy server, we're going to see what are the things it got installed just by passing the command, that is kubectl get pod. So you can see that ISTIO system, right? We try to get the pods. So just looking for namespace. Okay, we'll create the namespace and then we'll see. So we now enable the namespace. So why they are using the namespace means probably you might have seen the pod got erected copy. Okay, so we need to place that is istio inside the default namespace, that is istio icon injection, that should be enabled. So this is the kubectl agent. This is the command what we are, that is labeling the namespace as that is default, that is istio injection. Fine. So this is actually the name what we have provided to the namespace, and followed by where we enabling. So whatever the things we going to deploy further thereafter or furthermore or in addition, everything will be placed under this. Fine. Okay. So anyhow we done with installing things, and we'll try to go to the example of that is booking info application. So we have already done with all the things, right? We have just installed the istio. Fine. Now they are asking us to deploy API gateway. So the gateway is got installed. Fine. So already we have provided the default namespace and deploy your application using the kubectl command. That is using that agent. We'll try to deploy the application. So you might be wondering, so here is my application, you're just providing the command. So in while explaining through the PPT, you have just show the code everything, right? So they have stored everything inside this path. So you just navigate to that path, you can able to see everything. Okay, so we'll try to see kubectl get. So inside my application or the YAML file what we have just run or the apply, so by applying that YAML file we can able to create four, that is how many we have, 1 2 3 4 5 6, so total 6 pods got created. So one pod is having the microservices called details, another one is having the microservice called product, other three or the four we have ratings as well as review. Fine. So still they are in the initialization process. That is, they are pulling the images from the Docker app and they are installing it. We'll try to run it again. See here. So here two containers are running. Here out of two, one is only one is running, and others two are running. So we'll try to get it after. So now everything, all the containers are up and running. Fine. So we just deploy the things and we'll try to see, anyhow we have deployed using the kind deployment as well as service, right? So we'll try to get the cluster. So cluster is nothing but they're going to merge your multiple pods or containers into one, and they provide the IP addresses for that pod. Okay, so for detail they have provided the cluster IP. So if you want to access this detailed pod, you need to get into using this one. So we'll try to access initially, so whether we can able to access this or not. we'll try to see that. So just what we don't want to use Kubernetes cluster, right? So we just try to access the product one. Okay, so just copy the IP of your product followed by make a note, that is the port, or in what port it is available. So we'll get into the Kubernetes cluster by passing the command minikube ssh. So minikube ssh, minikube itself is a Kubernetes platform, right? So we will go by passing the ssh command, we can able to get into the Docker, that is cluster. We just got into our cluster. Here we're going to pass custom URL http. Hold on, just paste the cluster IP which you wanted to access, or which pod you wanted to access. Just pass the IP of that particular pod followed by the port where it is available. Just hit enter. You're going to see so what exactly inside your pod. So they have deployed some web application. Fine. So this is the application they have deployed. So if you want to access the rating one, just copy the public IP, that is cluster IP of this, and make a note, that is the port which it is. Same thing, you just replace your cluster IP with that and hit enter. So probably we are already in that. We will try to make out what exactly. So we got it right. So custom URL. So probably it's redirecting to some other pod. It's referring some other pods. For that purpose, we could not able to get that. Okay. So kubectl get pod. So probably we just saw that we can able to access the application successfully inside the cluster. So we'll try to access the cluster outside. Okay. So till here we have completed, and we have also confirmed that using the custom thing. So we'll try to install ISTIO gateway to access the thing outside gateway, and we'll try to see whether we can able to get the public IP of the cluster so that we can able to access the resource outside the Kubernetes cluster. So even after waiting for too long time, that is it's been almost 10 minutes after creating the load balancer, so still we are not able to get the public IP address. So why we are not able to get the public IP address for the load balancer? So here we have an issue, that is, since I am using the EC2 instance to deploy the application using the Kubernetes, and to achieve the ISTIO, that is service mesh concept, where it is not supported inside the EC2 instance, so it is not compatible. So to make it compatible, we had a option called, that is this one. So that is under LP. So this was the only option, so where we can able to achieve the load balancer to provide the range of public IP address to the load balancers. Fine. So we need to write another YAML file. Just let me show you. Fine. So this is the thing, and here it is. Fine. So once after installing the LB, so we need to have this file. So that is API version, configuration, namespace should be replaced by default so that it will get associated to that load balancer. Fine. And the default and the layer 2, and here they have provided the range, so it should start from 192.168.1.100 and goes up to 200. That is, they have allocated the 100 IP address. Okay, so I need to apply this. Once after applying, again I need to install the ISTIO systems. Why? Because it's the base root for having all the services, that is observatory, service dependencies, and ISTIO clusters, whatever we had, right? So that is all comes under the ISTIO pod, right? For that purpose, we need to delete it and we need to engage this again to get it associated with this tool. But unfortunately, this tool is not supported for AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. So they are all, what they are telling to use the service which is provided by the service provider itself respectively. So if we want to use these services, we need to have more privileges we could not able to achieve using the free tier account. So since I am using the free tier account, I could not able to show you people in practical how exactly the ISTIO is working. So everything is installed perfectly and things are working well and good. So only thing we are lagging on is accessing our application outside the Kubernetes cluster. So to achieve that, we have to use the services which are provided by the service provider respectively. So which provider we might be using. So here I will be using AWS. So since it's chargeable, I'm not using. So we need more privileges as well as the subscription thing. So definitely I look for some other opportunities to present you people in future videos if possible, or to get some others account who have on the subscription things. Fine. So or else we'll try to make out whether is there any other possible ways to access the thing. So even we do have possibilities that using the notepad, fine, that can even using notepad we can able to access the thing. So in notepad how exactly it is going to work, everything we're going to see. Previous video we saw that, right, that is in previous session we just saw we could not able to get the external IP, so for the load balancer. So since the tool which was not supporting, so I just tried to make use of minikube tunneling. So by just configuring the local load balancers and providing the IP addresses, here just provided the things. Let me show you. It's quite long thing, fine. So I just provided the details and the specifications of the name. Sorry. Okay, fine. So this is the file, that is service.yaml I'm going to create to provide the IP address or to get the IP address. Fine. So just I just apply it and run it, and thereafter I run the minikube tunnel followed by these things. And so I just run this and I got this one. Okay, and let it go there. So here still I can able to get my IP address. So we'll try to copy. So we'll try to copy it and paste it followed by port AP or 0, which is good, and So when I have been trying from last few minutes, so not able to get it, it might be the firewall issue. So the defender is blocking the network, I think so. So since it's not the secure network, so it's blocking. So we'll try to access through this port number 305110. Okay, so I think so. There might be an issue with the proxy as well as the firewall, and so the network looks good since it has abstracted from highlighting things. So there is a issue with any of these things. Fine. So we'll try to figure it out and let you people know. So any other ways we can able to achieve it or not. Thank you.